Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Friday. It is May the 16th, and it is a friendless Friday. We do not have our dear buddy Steve Friend with us today, but we're going to make do. I waited, and never did he show up in the green room. I'm just kidding. I knew he wasn't going to be here because Steve is doing dad stuff, and so we support that sort of thing here. I'm going to give you kind of an insight of where we're rolling today. We're going to do a quick a wave top skim of a number of headlines. I want to do it specifically because the outrage that you might see on social media is not the thing that is being covered by the mainstream media. There are two streams of data coming at you. One are what the people or the influencers or whatever that sort of news media operation that happens on the social media side. It's highly funded and it is generally well paid and it is professional, even if it's not ethical. And then there's the principal journalist types coming from the CNNs and the ABCs and the NBCs and so on and so forth and all that. So we're going to hit wave tops of mainstream, and then we're going to get into the social. And the reason why it is so critical that we cover some of the social media is because, as it was said to me by one of the folks that I know in the FBI, we are now, the FBI is, being run by social media influencers in the persons of the deputy director and the director. And that is the case for all of the Trump administration cabinet positions. Some of them are more focused on the social media and the PR aspect than others. The ones that are less focused on PR, turns out some of them are older and a little bit more kind of wise to the game. Those people are working on actually getting things done. And those that are a little bit more hip to what's happening in the media world, the social media world, and want to make sure that the messaging is good, they are getting less done. That's relevant. It's worthwhile to know that some people want to get work done and some people want you to think they're getting work done. So we're going to talk about those things today. That's where I want to go with today's program. We're going to start off with the folks at Blackout Coffee because I am already rip-roaring and ready to go. We've been telling you about Blackout Coffee for a few months now. You guys realize that they are an American coffee company. They started the same way many other companies did in this country, in a garage, a couple of people with a dream. Now they are running a 64,000 square foot warehouse. They are roasting all the beans in-house. They are packing the orders themselves. They have 30 hardworking employees, Americans who are pushing forward with no corporate nonsense, no woke garbage, just good coffee made by people who give a damn about making something that you want to drink. You're seeing on the screen the exact way that we do it here in the Seraphin household, although my dose might be a little bit higher because I do a 2-liter, a monstrous stainless steel French press. And the reason why is because I used to have glass ones and I kept turning around when I was kind of groggy and not getting going, and I would smash them into granite countertops and shatter them all over there. It's not a good move. You want to start with something that is durable, and that's the way we do it here. Blackout Coffee is not just about making a great cup of coffee. They're about supporting the American dream. You can go to blackoutcoffee.com/KYLE, get yourself discounted on your first order over there. No shortcuts, no weak beans. Just hard work, real values, coffee that's going to get you moving in the morning the way that it does here. Again, it's blackoutcoffee.com/KYLE. Use that promo code Kyle for 20% off your first order. Keep the American dream alive for these people. Keep your dream alive. Maybe kick the dream out of your eyes when you're trying to get going. Today, my eyes were almost welded shut, so I really needed it. I'm going to take a drink of coffee, and we're going to get started with today's program. Again, blackoutcoffee.com/KYLE. Let's go. All right. And as we ease into this, you guys are a critical part of the show because oftentimes what I see is some information that is being passed out in the chat that I wasn't paying attention to. Today will be interesting. I think a lot of you know where we're going to go when we talk about things like the playbook. If you're new to the program, we're going to introduce you to some concepts that are stalwarts here. And what they are is a way to look through the information whoever's giving it to us. I'm going to go out there and say, my buddy gave it a different name, but essentially, whoever you put in charge as the director of the FBI you're going to get Jim Comey. Doesn't matter who you put there. If you put Robert Mueller there, you're going to get Jim Comey. If you put Kash Patel there, you're going to get Jim Comey. So we're going to be talking some Comey stuff. And the real question is, what the shell, Jim Comey? You guys don't know this if you didn't work in the Bureau, but there were mugs and T-shirts and memorabilia that said Comey is my homie when Donald Trump removed him in the first round. Kind of ugly. Let's do some wave tops of some of the things that are being covered by the mainstream media. This one came from the folks over at CNN. We're going to just get started with that. Trump said the clock is ticking for 150 countries that want to make a deal, or they are going to face higher tariffs in the United States trade war against the world. So saith multiple different writers. You thought Donald Trump's trade war was over, but he's got some news for you. Tariffs are going to go up again. No, that's not what he actually said. He said if they want to make a deal, then their time is running out. They have to get after it. So at a certain point over the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think Scott and Howard are going to be sending out letters essentially telling people we've been very fair, but we're going to be telling people that it's going to cost money to do business with the United States again. In other words, he didn't say that the tariffs are going up. He's giving the whole point of this, which was to pressure people into making deals, trade deals that are advantageous to the United States. I heard somebody over on I can't remember what program she was on. I want to say she was over on CNN. And her statement was essentially Donald Trump has parted with the neocon ways that they are trying to export democracy, trying to bring American freedom to all the other lands in the world. Donald Trump's sort of departure from that is, who gives a hell about what goes on in the Middle East? We don't care. If you want to have a king, if you want to have a monarch, if you want to have a dictator, if you want to do strong man, knock yourself out. The United States is going to do the United States style. And I think maybe it comes from a practical understanding. Maybe it comes from that business background where Donald Trump realizes that you can't make other countries be the United States. So all you should do is negotiate the best deal for the United States and screw them. You know, that is what America First would look like if you were going to translate it into a very short phrase. America only is still in line with that, where you would say America's interests are my focus. Whatever happens with the rest of the world, good luck. If they want to jump on board with us, we're giving them tools. They're out there. They're available. We've been funding them through the UN for a very long time. Or not. And that's okay too. Some countries not only are not ready, they are not suited for the way that America does business. We think it's the best because we live here, and this is the thing that we're accustomed to. And we think it provides the biggest freedom. And you know what? A lot of people around the world do as well. They want to come here on purpose, illegally oftentimes. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But that doesn't mean that we should try to export what we have to them. Culturally, a lot of people are not capable of it. Financially, they may not be as well. You can't just drop America on other places and expect it to be the case, because a lot of them fight back. And why are you fighting with other countries that are resisting when their culture and their heritage and all of their instincts and all the people's values? Look, I look at people in other cultures in the same way that they do, which is to say human life is not the same. American lives are not the same as other countries. How do I know that? Because they don't treat them the same. They don't value their own people the way that we value our people. And you can almost always look at that in casualty reports. If you go look at, like, let's say an earthquake or a building disaster or a shooting or some sort of tragedy that happens overseas versus one that happens in America, we'll lose our ever-loving minds if 5 people are killed in like some sort of bus maintenance accident, or a ferry sinks and somebody dies. One person dying in a ferry accident in the United States is a catastrophe. If you see it overseas, it's like 32 people died in a capsized boat. 132 people were going across some river and they all sunk and everyone died in it. And you just go, they don't value people the way that we value people. It's been very obvious to me for quite a long time. It's fun to see the mainstream media try to run cover for this stuff. Here's an example. We got the story. Like I said, I wanted to hit the top story from each of the websites. This one's coming from CBS News. The judge in the Abrego Garcia case, the most famous illegal alien maybe in the last 20 years. He's like the Elian Gonzalez, I guess. Okay. Abrego Garcia is going to be reviewed, and the Trump administration is going to be determined whether or not they can keep the case details secret. Remember, this was not a criminal case against him. This was an administrative case. And so the question was, if the judge is hearing arguments on Friday, can the government assert the privilege, what they call state secrets, to facilitate a return? They're trying to pull this guy back. Sebastian Gorka actually went on TV and did a sit down with Politico, kind of cutting them up and talking about how these people are defending terrorists. Again, I think that is the point. What it's proven is that there are mainstream media journalists, quote unquote journalists, we'll say that, that's their job. And they cannot help themselves. They cannot get out of the way. They just have to disagree with things that they would have never questioned the Biden administration about, like declarations that the presidency actually has the ability to do, like declare a terrorist organization. That is something that comes out under the State Department. To be an FTO is a determination that happens unilaterally by the executive. Here's Sebastian Gorka cutting it up against some lady from Politico who looks exactly like the lady who said the N-word and raised almost $1 million. You wonder. It makes you wonder about a lot of things. Anyway, watch this.
A member of Al-Qaeda. If you're a member of Al-Qaeda, you're a terrorist.
How do you know if that they're members of these gangs? What I'm saying
You mean
is,
the tattoos MS-13 on our knuckles doesn't, that doesn't help it?
those
Do you have tattoos of Al-Qaeda?
the tattoo did not say MS-13.
wrist?
I don't want to get into that.
Oh, of course it does. It's just accidents that the four symbols represent the letters MS. See, this is why Politico is a joke. This is why you are gutter press and fake news. That those four symbols that just happen to comport with the letters MS and the numbers 13 don't, in this case, represent MS-13. You're sitting here live defending a member of MS-13. That's why I regret coming here, because this isn't journalism. This is protecting those who hate America. Shame on you. We are saving lives. Sir. Saving lives. How about Maryland fathers compared to Maryland mothers? Like Rachel Marin, mother of 5, raped and murdered and thrown in a ditch. How about Jocelyn Nungare, age 12, raped a mile from her home and thrown in a ditch? It's strange that Politico doesn't do articles about her, that mother, or that 12-year-old girl. Why is that? Why is the MS-13 guy with the knuckle tattoos more important in terms of due process than the lives of 12-year-old girls brutally raped? It's weird that the priorities shift to defending the member of an FTO, but not the children and the women. Dan Crenshaw told me a story once of a 16-year-old girl who was smuggled across this border. The parents paid $5,000 for her to live in America, the land of milk and honey. She ended up locked in a room in New York, raped by more than a dozen men every day for 18 months until she escaped. She went to Dan Crenshaw's office, and I'm no friend of Dan Crenshaw's, okay? He's still got TDS. And that girl said to him, please close the border so another girl doesn't have to be raped by 12 strange men every day for 18 months. It's strange that Politico doesn't cover those stories.
It's not strange. They have an agenda and they're pushing it out there. This is one of the actual advantages of putting people that understand media, social media, or whatever. And you know, Sebastian Gorka is a traditional media type guy. He was on Newsmax. He was doing television. He was doing radio. He can filibuster this lady with facts, articulable facts. That story he told about that 16-year-old girl, that is a ubiquitous story when you cover things like MS-13. When you work in that space and you work against terrorist organizations, which is what they call them now, but we call them transnational organized crime, very, very similar sort of MOs. That is a very common story. 16-year-old girl, gang raped over and over again until they either escape or die. It is one of the reasons why people who are worried about children and the sex trafficking is that there is a time clock that starts the minute those people get involved in it. The victims do not last. They are considered disposable. They are a reusable asset that will eventually not be useful at all to the people that bring them in. It is atrocious. So watching mainstream media cover that stuff, it shows you exactly what Sebastian Gorka just said. They hate this country. They're representing the instincts of the Democrat Party, which also seems to hate this country. And that's hard to say because a lot of the people, if you go back even 20, 30 years ago, that were in that party, they didn't have the same visceral, loathing hatred. They didn't give in to the most radical and crappy instincts that you're currently seeing. I've got two. I think this is Cori Bush. I'm trying to figure out why she's standing up there, but I think this is Cori Bush. And then Ayanna Pressley talking. These are two black women in politics, one a congresswoman, one I think is a former congresswoman at this point, but again, I couldn't get a caption of who it was. They're talking about reparations in 2025, how America is being so terrible to them. Meanwhile, these are the same people that are trying to represent that this terrible nation should keep all the brown people that came here basically to prey on the good people that live here, that came here to victimize more people who look somewhat similar to them. It's a mentally incongruous sort of argument to make, and it doesn't stop them because you've got some sycophantic weirdos in the background that meekly chant. So I'm going to give you a couple clips of this just to give you kind of a taste, and then we're going to go on with a couple more headlines. Like I said, we will get to Comey. We are going to get to the playbook because it's so relevant. That is probably the most important thing to point out today, is that we're getting the same old crap from certain parts of the Trump administration. I feel like we have room to push because the other side is doing this.
A duty to repair. So let's make it clear. There is a debt that does exist. This country has taken so much from black folks and has a debt it owes because for over 400 years into this very day, this country has stolen black labor, black lives, black futures. Industries were built and maintained through the subjugation of black people in this country, and wealth was built and maintained through the discriminatory policies that still plague us to this day. And to be clear, some people directly benefited from it or are direct beneficiaries of it. We have systems that create and perpetuate imbalances in our society, and you either benefit from it or you are disenfranchised by it. And black people continue to be disenfranchised and harmed by these systems. Others receive advantages from it. So,
dang. She's really speaking there, isn't she? She's spitting that. It's not true, but it does sound really good if you read quickly and nobody has time to sit there and process what the things you just said. You just said that this country is built on the theft of black labor and black experiences. And meanwhile, there you stand in a white suit in front of a microphone with a national audience being able to do that. So, yeah, I get it. I think you're actually defeating your own argument by your own existence. But okay, sure. How about reparations now?
And discrimination against black people. We are in a moment of anti-blackness on steroids, and we refuse to be silent. We will not back down in our pursuit of racial justice. The antidote to anti-blackness is to be pro-black, and we will do it unapologetically. The United States government owes us a debt, and we need reparations now.
We need reparations now. That's where the black fatigue comes from that I was talking about yesterday. This is such a logical position to hold. Again, you're a freaking member of Congress. Does that not tell you something about this country? We have every color and every face and both men and women represented in our elected bodies to go out there and make laws. How about shut off the victim thing? But maybe not. Maybe you just continue with that. See how it suits you. It's not going to work. It hasn't worked. And Americans are fatigued by that attitude. And it does come from a very, very unique set of people that are just pushing grievances. It just turns out that people are tired of being told that they're the problem. Another headline, just for funsies. Let's push forward on this one. This is day 8 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, a thing that I could not care less about because I don't think it's national news. It tells you how much that we have a problem with looking at celebrities and expecting them to somehow be something that they are not. They are fallen and flawed people. The lawyers who are out there reading text messages. Imagine doing this, being like the so-called victim. I'm sure she was a victim of domestic violence, but it's become such a national spectacle that you've got this woman, Cassie Ventura, out there, and she has like a decade worth of text messages that they are reading. All the most intimate communications had to be put on display. And so, of course, you've got the people that are representing Combs out there. The attorneys are reading her text messages, and the jury is getting to see a lot of the sexual sort of contact and the explicit nature of their relationship, and a bunch of stuff about drugs, and a bunch of stuff about parties, and going and buying sex toys, and all of this stuff is put out there. It's just it's a display spectacle. It lets you know that having a lot of money doesn't make you a good person. Being attractive doesn't mean that you're a good person. And just because everyone knows your name doesn't mean that you're going to live up to some sort of hype or standard. I've got a great video clip that I'm going to make you deal with right now, coming from maybe another generation's hero, because he was a musician. Somehow he got it in his head that he was supposed to go out and give political diatribes. Imagine spending whatever it costs to buy tickets for a Bruce Springsteen concert. He's now 75 years old. So you now have a boomer musician who did songs like Dancing in the Dark, which I love, Born to Run, Born in the USA, all kinds of cultural commentary. People thought that he was a fantastic representative of Americans and a dissident in some ways, and talking about the failings of this nation, but in a good way, in a positive way, in a musical way. And then he decided to just give his diatribe on how he still has TDS, again, covering for, I guess, gangbangers that are running around on the street. I cannot imagine that someone paid for tickets, even to get only 90 seconds of the speech, is a little bit nutty. Let's give this one a little listen.
That won't bow down to their ideological demands. They're removing residents off American streets and without due process of law are deporting them to foreign detention centers and prisons. This is all happening now. The majority of our elected representatives have failed to protect the American people from the abuses of an unfit president and a rogue government.
All right. And then you got about 18 people cheering, and most of the people are sitting there going, why do I have to deal with this crap? I think actually Kid Rock, of all people, who's also a musician, who also does that for a living, performs for people, kind of knocks it down over on Jesse Waters. We got a couple of Jesse Waters clips that seem pretty decent. So here he is explaining maybe the problem in America and why our declining birth rate has something to do with the people that would go to a Bruce Springsteen concert. It's an interesting answer.
When you play your concerts, do you ever see anybody with blue hair, armpit hair, female armpit hair? Some of these people we're looking at, kid, I don't know.
Man, listen, I was just watching your clips, and we have this low birth rate in America, and it all made sense to me. It just hit me right now, because who's going to sleep with these ugly ass, broke, crazy, deranged, TDS liberal women? I mean, you look at these rallies, it's like a bunch of women that no guy wants to sleep with and a bunch of dudes that want to sleep with each other.
Have you seen what Comey...
Yikes. Okay, they're going to get into the Comey thing. We'll go over and talk about that because I got a clip about that as well. 2 officials fired by Trump returned to court to challenge his power. Those 2 officials are women that might be at a Bruce Springsteen concert, kind of like you just heard Kid Rock talking about. This, of course, is being covered by NPR. It's their top headline. Appellate judge in Washington, D.C. will consider the key question on Friday. Does the president have the constitutional authority to fire board members at agencies that were created by Congress to be independent of the White House, and yet they're executive agencies? In other words, just like all the things that Congress did, they determine how much money gets in there, but they have a problem. The president is the person who is specifically in charge of something like the National Labor Relations Board, that we probably shouldn't have in the first place, and the Merit System Protections Board, which is absolutely useless in my experience with it. It doesn't protect people if you come from the wrong political background. Maybe it's because people like this are at the top of these boards, and the other one sounds overtly communist. All right, lower court judges said yes. In fact, the president does have the ability to deal with this and to drop people. They cited a 1935, it's that old law thing again, isn't it? Supreme Court case decision known as Humphrey's Executor. It upheld the limits Congress placed on the president's removal powers. The judge ordered Wilcox and Harris to temporarily be returned to their states. We're going to have to decide whether or not in this appellate district, and of course, it's going to go to a D.C. district, yuck, but we're going to decide whether or not you actually have the authority to remove people when you are the person who is the chief executive. And it's nonstop with this stuff. Who are the people that are cheering for it? They're kind of like the people that are at the rallies that you heard Kid Rock talk about. I've got a little video of this. It's going to lead us into something known as 8647. That's the sign that you're going to see. If you're just listening, these people are walking around claiming they want due process for illegal aliens and to get rid of Donald Trump. They don't like him, and I guess they probably would support government workers writ large. Here it is.
Due process now!
Bring him home, they say. Him being Abrego Garcia, because why not? The sad tuba in the background might be the best little effect there. Someone is marching around with like they're reliving their high school marching band days, I guess. Good for them. How sad. Before we get further into it, and I got a couple more headlines, and then we're going to get into the what the shell, Comey, the homie. We will first say a little quick thank you to my friends over at Silent. Let me reach down here. Hold on. Where did I put it? Oh, it's over on the side over here. I have my Silent Faraday bag. I actually didn't even buckle it. I just have it wrapped up with my phone in it so it does not ring while we go live. The folks over at Silent understand that there are some potential threats to you and your safety and your digital safety at all times, whether it be government or big tech or corporate America. Criminals that are trying to compromise your privacy. People can use things like RF scanners. They can hack your phones as you walk by. If you've ever seen a white hat conference in Vegas, they can do it without ever touching you. If you want to protect yourself when you're on an airplane, when you're out in public, if you're on public transportation, if you want just a moment of quiet when you go out into the woods to turn everything off and be in control of whether or not you're sending your signal out into the world, you can do so with a Silent Faraday product. Again, it's slnt.com/Kyle. You'll save 15% on any of the things you want to get there, whether it be one of the phone sleeves, whether you want to get a pair of their pants, whether you want to get something if you're a law enforcement officer and you need a sensitive site exploitation tool. I've actually got a bag back here that'll fit in a cargo pocket. You can blow it out and throw in in laptops and cameras and all kinds of cell phones and tablets and so on that you don't want to get wiped remotely when you're going after, let's say, a transnational organized criminal. It's an opportunity that you can do. The military uses them. They are a military grade capability of protecting you from EMPs. If you want your radios and stuff to be locked up and safe, if you're a prepper type person, check out their Faraday products, which are as well made as anything I've seen out there. And again, they have military contracts. They have some various federal agencies that also work with them and use their products. And we use them here at the Kyle Seraphin Show. If you don't know what a Faraday is, by the way, a Faraday cage or a Faraday bag, it is a wire mesh that is designed to interrupt signals from radio transmitters, inbound and outbound. And the way that you make them effective is you make sure that there is no gaps. Almost all of the commercial and Chinese-made garbage that you find that are on Amazons that are much cheaper, they almost all have a leak in it somewhere, which means that you're actually not getting the protection you thought you were. If you guys want a good one that does work, it's passed my own test, the same ones we used at the Bureau. It's slnt.com/Kyle. Again, LNT for silent.com/KYLE. Save yourself 15%. Get free shipping on those qualified orders. And you'd be surprised how often you use something like this. I use mine like literally every day now. All right, we're going to do some RFK right here real quickly. Let's talk about this. RFK seems to be one of the few guys that's actually getting it done. He has almost no missteps that I've seen, which is crazy because he's a Democrat. He's a Democrat from back in the day. And so they have to paint him. Again, the enemy will tell you where they are strong and where they are weak. They are weak on RFK Jr. One, because he has a broad base of support from people like moms that want to see their kids be healthy. His agenda to have Americans in general feel better, that they think that dyes and all the things that we know are not good in our food. He's been saying it out loud. It shouldn't actually be a partisan position. This is a really good little hit piece that's done over at MSNBC. It was one of their top stories. RFK Jr.'s refusal to give advice on vaccines is in fact dangerous advice. In other words, if you don't say what we want you to, we need to compel speech. And I'm going to get into compelled speech and free speech and protecting speech a little bit. If you don't say exactly what we want, you need to be canceled. This is the position of this MSNBC opinion writer. They said that he's an anti-vaxxer. Of course, they always smear that, but they don't ever cover his own words where he says, I'm not anti-vax. In fact, my kids have gotten vaccines. The question they asked was, would you in fact give your children vaccines today, knowing what you know? And he sort of just said, I'm not going to push this out. Then he says, for measles, yeah, probably for measles. There's certain things that he would and certain things that he wouldn't. Like a nuanced perspective on the world. That's not a terrible take. It really upsets these people. What also upsets them is that he wants to cut, quote unquote, funding. Listen to what he says the funding is being cut from, because the Trump administration came back and said, we don't need all the money that we have going into Medicare and to Medicaid because it's not being used properly. There's fraud, there's waste, there's abuse, there's criminal activity. So the money that is funding criminality shouldn't actually be funded. This is a big offense, and it is a big affront to the Democrat agenda, which is like, how much more can we grow government regardless of who it benefits, even if it benefits people that are scamming us, which means they're taking money out of your pocket and giving it to people that don't deserve it. Here's his answer. I think this is masterful work. Again, you should not go into a fight with someone who knows more about the thing that you're asking questions about than you do.
So do you disagree with the cuts that are being proposed for Medicaid right now?
Oh, the cuts to, this is I don't know if you understand this or whether you're just mouthing, the Democratic talking points. The cuts to Medicaid are for fraud, waste, and abuse. And I'll tell you what that means. It means that because of DOGE, we were able to determine, and it's about 8 million people who would be affected. Because of DOGE, we were able to determine that there are 1 million people who are claiming Medicaid from multiple states. That's illegal. It's theft. You're not allowed to do that. There are another 1 million people who are collecting both under Obamacare and
Mr. Secretary, that has nothing to do with the budget that's
These are
actually
the only
being
cuts that are
proposed
being
in the
made.
House.
These are the only cuts that are being made to Medicaid.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. There are another 1 million illegal aliens. We announced a law yesterday, a rule yesterday, we're not going to pay illegal aliens anymore. And guess what Gavin Newsom did this morning? He said, we're going to take all the illegal aliens off the California Medicaid rolls because the feds aren't paying for them anymore. So the compassion ends.
Secretary, let me focus you on the actual numbers of the budget that's being proposed. Secretary, I regain my time. I think what you are saying is
final
absolutely inaccurate in terms of the 13 million Americans that will lose access to health care. Let me tell you, the folks in my district are not actually getting Medicaid in another state. They can't travel to get it in another state. The clinics that are providing that life-saving care are the last resort for folks.
Let me tell you the last category. Last category is adults who are able-bodied, who refuse to look for a job, to volunteer, to get a job, or to show that they are or to take a part-time job.
I agree with them. That is absolutely not true. The vast majority of folks in a community like mine who are on Medicaid are working. They want to work. People want to be able to make sure that
they're in no danger of losing their Medicaid.
That's kind of a mic drop. If you're going to go after the guy who actually has access to the internal funding, again, it's an executive agency. You're a member of Congress. You're out there asking questions. Who do you think has better access to it? And it turns out that guys like RFK Jr. have been eating and sleeping and breathing this information for quite a while now. Getting rid of fraud should not be a fight. In fact, they should all cheer. They should go, that's great. We'd actually like to see efficiency. The crazy thing is, and we've showed you compilations of this before, if you go back 15, 20 years, there are every single major Democrat talking about this stuff, saying that as much as a third of Medicare or Medicaid is in fact fraudulent. It's people that are scamming the system. They're double dipping. In other words, they're collecting it, like you said, in 2 different states. It's people that are not eligible. You've got people like Gavin Newsom who are out there correcting themselves when they say, we want to be compassionate, but if you don't have any federal funding, you can't do that. Again, a lot of these are funded by the federal government, but they are administered by the state. And so the states take all kinds of liberties. If you actually have somebody come in and go, we're not going to do that anymore. We are now going to have some scrutiny over the way that you administer the funds that we put out there, and we're going to withhold it if you don't actually use it properly. Then you end up having somebody, do the job that they were hired to do. It actually shouldn't even be partisan at all. Okay, all of those things were the big pieces that I wanted to cover down on. I want to do the Terror Factory because I think it's super relevant to us today. I think it's something that should be brought up at this exact moment in time because we're starting to see it again under Kash Patel's leadership of the FBI, and that is problematic. I talked to yet another FBI agent who said the folks inside the Bureau are making fun of him left and right, and it doesn't matter. Even the ones that want him to be successful are not impressed. He sent out apparently an FBI-wide email the other day making apologies or making excuses about why he was going to nightclubs with his girlfriends. We're getting reports that his girlfriend is getting an FBI protection detail that you, the American taxpayer, has to pay for. Do you want to pay for a 26-year-old country music star who does a podcast to get FBI agents who should be investigating child pornography or child trafficking or MS-13 or terrorists? You want those people out there providing protection details for some dude's girlfriend in his 40s? Give me a break. And as we reported here, Kash Patel's net worth is somewhere between $6 and $30 million. If he wants to protect his girlfriend, he can hire a private security guard. This is not a big deal. This is not a hard thing to solve the problem on. We're making it an issue. And so I want to show you this tweet that came out the other day. Again, when you have social media people running things, you're going to get ridiculous statements like this. And I'm truly troubled. This might be the worst news that I've seen. I sat on this for a day or two. Some of you guys called it out over on social media and said, hey, is this the playbook? And they tagged me on it. And I waited to read because I wanted to actually see what the press release said. And I'm waiting for the complaint or the indictment so we can actually see what that looks like. But man, it's got every single common thread with the so-called playbook that we call it here. The reason why we made a movie called Police State, why I agreed to help Dinesh D'Souza, is because I believe that the playbook is a real thing. The FBI Counterterrorism Division manufactures terrorism in what Trevor Aronson calls the Terror Factory, and then they go and bust it, and then they claim that they're heroes. Here's the tweet from Kash Patel. It is up as of, I believe, yesterday. New from your FBI. This is messaging and PR, but it is not reality. I can confirm now reports that our FBI teams and partners foiled an attempted ISIS attack on one of our U.S. military bases in Warren, Michigan. The individual, his name is going to be terrible because I'm going to butcher it. It's an Islamic name. It's Ammar Abdulmajid Mohammed Saeed. He plotted a mass shooting at the United States Tank, Automotive, and Armaments Command, also known as TACCOM facility, before multiple undercover law enforcement officers obtained information of his plans. He was arrested this week and will face charges of supporting a foreign terrorist organization, among others. Our agents and our intelligence teams and our partners, they all acted quickly to save lives. Well, congratulations to you guys. I know you didn't do this, right? You didn't do the 2015 Trevor Aronson, how the FBI created a terrorist sting thing, did you? You didn't introduce like FBI agents and undercovers and confidential human sources to talk a guy into doing some stupid things. You didn't do that, I hope, right? Because we made you properly aware through movie and through posts and through social media and through personal conversation that this is a problem that the FBI is known to do, that they create the terrorism that they are going to disrupt. I know Kash Patel wouldn't do that sort of thing, right? We expect better. Unless we didn't get that. Unless that's exactly what happened. Before we get into the details of the story, which is going to be just, unfortunate for all of us, and then we'll get into the Shell thing, which is a nothing burger. I'm going to shock you guys, but the context is Jim Comey has the right to free speech. Before we do any of those things, let me say thanks to the folks over at Undertac. Folks, Undertac, they are the world's best boxer briefs. They are designed for members of Army Special Forces. Designed for guys working in the harshest climates like Africa or Houston, Texas, or Austin, Texas, or maybe Mississippi. Undertac isn't just underwear, it's tactical gear built for tough missions, like walking around when it's super hot and everything sticks to the side of your legs. If you want to do some aggressive rucking, or if you're just trying to get through and walk in a suit and not have everything be completely destroyed in your grundle region, these boxer briefs are made from premium mobile fabrics. They have 50% better moisture wicking than cotton. They'll keep you cool and dry and locked in. They have a hidden E&E pocket for escape and evasion if you want to discreetly store some microfilm, if you want to put a hidden SD card in there with your crypto wallet, if you want to keep a couple extra almonds like your Steve friend and you've got a long-term mission you want to go, multiple days worth of food, you could do that. You can pair them up with our American-made merino wool socks. You can do it with the Urban Ops hoodie. They're built tough. They'll keep you comfy. They are mission ready, whether you're at the range or the field or relaxing on your couch in your undies. And yes, I may or may not have done that. They are very comfortable. For a limited time, you can get a buy 3, get 1 free on all Undertac underwear. That's basically 25% off if you buy 4 of them. Promo code is Kyle, K-Y-L-E. It's undertac.com. Use promo code K-Y-L-E. Save yourself on 4 pairs. Get your whole week squared away when it comes to your undies. Yeah, man. And they're the only undies that I have considered changing in the last 16 years, which is a real statement. We're going to get deeper into the terrorism thing because, like I said, these guys fight terrorists. At least the people that are wearing them do, right? There's some kind of a segue there. Look at this. The Sting. This is from 2015. This is a story that was written by The Intercept, how the FBI actually created a terrorist. Again, they recorded it. They got the message. They did everything on. They wouldn't have done that to a dude in Michigan, would they? Here's the damn press release. I've highlighted the relevant parts. Michigan man is arrested and charged for attempting to attack a military base on behalf of ISIS. What did he actually do in relation to this attack? What was the attack? On May the 13th, the scheduled day of the attack, he was arrested when he traveled to the area near TACCOM, and he launched his drone in support of the attack. Why did he launch the drone, you say? Well, I'll read it to you. According to the complaint, Saeed informed 2 undercover law enforcement officers of a plan that he had devised and formulated to conduct a mass shooting on the United States Army's Tank Automotive Armaments Command, TACCOM, a facility near the Detroit Arsenal in Warren, Michigan. In April of 2025, that's last month, the 2 undercover officers indicated that they intended to carry out his plan. Do you hear what that means? He wasn't going to carry out his plan. He just had a plan in his head. What do I tell you? If the worst thing that you have in your mind is now backed up by somebody online who wants to help you out and help you do your stupidest idea for the exact amount of money you have, you are now dealing with a Fed. In this case, quite literally, 2 undercover officers indicated that they would carry out the intended plan at the direction of ISIS. In response to Saeed, he decided to provide material support. So he must have given them like weapons and explosives and things, right? No, he provided them with armor-piercing ammunition, which he maybe stole from the military. I guess he was a National Guardsman for a couple years. He's 19 years old, people. He's a moron, and he's 19. He gave them magazines and ammunition, but not the guns to shoot them. And then he said he would fly his drone to conduct reconnaissance operations. He helped train the undercover employees, who in fact work for either the FBI or local law enforcement, on firearms and constructions of Molotov cocktails so they could use those in the attack. He helped with the numerous planning details of the attack, including how to enter the building. That sounds super suspicious until you look at it with a skeptical eye of somebody who understands that we've dealt with a police state. This is the movie that we did with Dinesh D'Souza. Some of you guys will remember that. Dan Bongino was involved in that movie. Kash Patel was in that movie. So were members of Congress. The entire point is that the FBI sets these things up, creates them, and then knocks them down. Steve Friend and I were in there. If you're looking on the screen right now, you're seeing a man with a baseball hat, sunglasses, and a mask. That is Kyle Seraphin portraying an FBI agent taking a father into custody. It doesn't have to be a father. It could be a Muslim guy. It could be some idiot radical who they found online. That's how this works. They just set it up, and then they knock it back down. It is truly problematic that we have people who are not being serious about this stuff, because we do have real threats out there in the world. This is a real threat. Actually, let me give you a not real threat. How about another not real threat? This is Jim Comey. Yesterday, Jim Comey made some very exciting news for people who want to have outrage in the world. He said, cool shell formation on my beach walk. And the numbers 8, 6, 4, 7 were spelled out in the sand. So people took that to mean 8647. They said, dear God, he's saying that he wants Donald Trump killed. That's what he's saying. Obviously, he's saying that. What else could it mean? There's a couple of things it could mean, because Jim Comey has been known to put things out in shell formations and use them to sort of like cover for his thoughts. He also apparently found a shell that said, vote Harris. And he said, Ariel gets it. Ariel knows what the mission is, because he's like a loudmouth Democrat now. He's an attention-seeking weirdo who stands in the middle of roads and has someone stand and take a picture behind him looking down the road, or stands awkwardly in a cornfield wondering what's coming next, etc., etc. How do we know that this was him trying to go and see Donald Trump assassinated? We really don't. You know what also was interesting about yesterday, as you guys pointed out in the chat before we got started? Here's the count of days since September 11th, 2001. From September 11th, 2001 to May 15th, 2025, it was 8647 days. Maybe someone there was counting the number of days the way my friend Garrett O'Boyle counts the number of days that he's been kicked out of the FBI. Maybe somebody was sitting there and saying, it's been 8,647 days since my loved one died. Because people do that, and maybe they leave that message in the sand too. That's a real possibility. Or, more likely, he was trying to let you know that he's got a new book coming out. And his new book, which is coming from Publishers Weekly, it comes out on May the 20th. He was looking for attention. He wanted someone to pay attention to FDR Drive, his new book, a crime novel that he's taken on of late. This is the thing that he does these days. This is what Jim Comey spends his time doing. And quite interestingly, on the press release for that, he actually wrote, I just got my copies. This is what he wrote on April 21st. He has a box of books and it says, I just got my copies. Everybody else will get theirs on May 20th. Nora and Benny battling right-wing domestic terrorism fueled by well-funded demagoguery. I wish it wasn't so real. I hope you like it. You know, 8647. Now, if that's really dangerous, because Kash Patel actually said that they were going to be investigating this sort of thing, we are aware of social media posts by former FBI Director James Comey directed at President Trump. We are in communication with the Secret Service and Director Curran, I guess that's the Secret Service Director. The primary jurisdiction is with the Secret Service. So why is he commenting? We, the FBI, will provide all necessary support. Do you know how clown-worthy this stuff is? Because here's Jack Poso. Jack Posobiec wrote 8646 at 10:30 at night on 1/29/2022. It turns out there are plenty of people who have said things like 86 somebody, and it's not a call for someone to be dead. As someone who's worked in more restaurants than Kash Patel or Tulsi Gabbard or Jesse Waters or Laura Ingraham or anybody else that brings on there, I spent like 5 to 8 years working in restaurants. 86 means we're out of it or cancel it. We're no longer selling it. It doesn't mean that you want to bury somebody. It's not the same thing as deep sixed. And it turns out that that's free speech. Republican Trump 8646 t-shirt, $13.38 on Amazon. You can get it tomorrow. You can get it on Sunday. Again, Jack Posobiec said it. There's multiple variations of it. 8646. Get rid of the guy. Put someone new in office. You have the right to free speech in this country, even if it's stupid speech, even if it's obnoxious speech. And we should definitely not be supporting this kind of nonsense. I want to remind you guys that there, in fact, was some court cases about this. They go back to the 1960s, Watts v. United States. It was a landmark case that defined the boundaries of what is called true threats, aka the true threat doctrine. To say that this is a threat is nonsensical, and it's silly. It's social media influencer hype. It's outrage clicking, and I despise it. The entirety of the true threat doctrine means that it has to instill fear and anxiety in persons or communities. It has to lead to disruption and/or social rest. There has to be the possibility that that threat will actually be carried out. And they actually clarified that with another Supreme Court case in 2023. We actually covered it at the time. It's Counterman versus Colorado. The Supreme Court ruled that to criminally prosecute a person based on what we call true threats, it has to be a real threat, okay? Not the number of days since 9/11 or a cool shell formation on my beach walk. The prosecution has to prove that the defendant had a subjective intent to threaten the victim. You have to subjectively prove that Jim Comey knew it was a threat. And of course, he immediately walked it back and said, I had no idea that this was such a political message. It didn't stop people from going out and trying to make hay out of this stuff. So here you have Tulsi Gabbard talking about it with Jesse Waters. The idea that the DNI would deign to talk about this is a misfocusing. And I think Tulsi Gabbard has mostly done a pretty good job. But if you're just desperate to get a Fox News hit on a Thursday night, I guess you could go do this.
Tulsi Gabbard's the director of national intelligence. Are you buying that the former FBI director didn't know what 86 Trump meant?
Absolutely not, Jesse. That is a ridiculous and insane statement to make, certainly within this context, but especially coming from a guy who's the former director of the FBI, a guy who spent most of his career prosecuting mobsters and gangsters, people who know and execute other humans and use this exact lingo of 86. Comey himself admitted in his follow-on message that he knew that this was a political statement. Well, the only reason he knew that, Jesse, was because a little over a month ago, a bunch of anti-Trump, anti-Elon Musk protesters were proliferating the use of this 8647 slogan, which was a veiled call to action to murder the sitting president of the United States.
Hey, Seraphin, two more orders, and we're going to 86 crab legs. Okay, 2 more orders, we're 86 in crab legs. Got it? Pass it around to your teammates. Hey, 86 crab legs, 2 more orders. That's what it looks like if you're in a restaurant. That's what 86 means. It means we're not going to sell them anymore. We don't have them anymore. We're discontinuing. It doesn't mean that we're killing the crab legs. Kill crab legs? No. 86 means no more. This is silliness. This is a waste of time. This is distraction. I'm going to show you a real problem, because what it does show you is that Jim Comey was a political actor, which we knew. He's actually a narcissistic guy, from what I can tell. Having listened to multiple Jim Comey speeches, he is very good at walking the line of getting people excited about something. He is charismatic. He is brilliant. He really is. You'd be foolish not to call him that. To act like this was a threat that is somehow going to open him up to criminal prosecution is silliness. He is not criminally liable for that. He may have done other things that were in fact criminal, but if you think we're going to see people in jail, I don't think so. There's some tape that Ed Martin says that we might actually see that. That would be the most unexpected turn of events. That will be the most unexpected victory that I could find. Play one more little piece of him talking about it real quick, and then we're going to get into what I think is the real threat that showed up yesterday, and it did come from social media. It is a much more dangerous thing than Jim Comey, and it's getting almost no play.
You know, whatever his intent, I will tell you that there is a guy in Georgia who was issuing threats on my life about a month ago, and he's in jail today. He has been indicted with a crime, as he should have been, and he is in jail as we speak. So whatever James Comey intent, he and people like him need to be held to account according to the law, which is something that he claims to have given his life for and stands by the rule of law. Fantastic. The rule of law says people like him who issue direct threats against the President of the United States, essentially issuing a call to assassinate him, must be held accountable under the law.
Do you believe Comey should be in jail?
I do. Any other person with the position of influence that he has, people who take very seriously what a guy of his stature, his experience, and what the propaganda media has built him up to be, I'm very concerned for the president's life. We've already seen assassination attempts. I'm very concerned for his life. And James Comey, in my view, should be held accountable and put behind bars for this.
Nobody would investigate this. I'm just telling you right now. 18 U.S.C. 871, threats against the presidency or successors of the presidency. Whoever knowingly and willfully deposits for conveyance in the mail or for delivery from a post office or any other letter carrier of any paper, letter, writing, print, missive, or document containing any threat to take the life of, to kidnap, or inflict bodily harm upon the President of the United States, the President-elect, the Vice President, or other officers in the succession in the order to the office of the President of the United States or the Vice President-elect, or knowingly and willfully otherwise makes such a threat against the President or the President-elect, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 5 years or both. No way do you reach the threshold for investigating this when it comes to the elements of this crime. You guys can all be upset all you want. I love it. The chat's over here going, you're wrong. They almost killed him. Don't get me wrong. I know they almost killed him. I remember this like it was yesterday because this is one of the craziest things that I'll probably take to my grave with me. This happened. Jim Comey putting some shells on the ground is not that.
And you know, that's a little bit old, that chart. That chart's a couple of months old. And if you want to really see something that said, take a look at what happened.
Those sounds will haunt me. And when I hear them and the echoes of them and the response shots, unbelievably troubling. That is not what Jim Comey is doing. Now, Jim Comey may very well be getting people riled up and amped up to a sentiment that they think that, the crazies will go out there. And I think Comey, in addition to trying to sell books, which is obviously where he might be sitting at there's his box of books. While Jim Comey might be trying to push that forward, you cannot convince me that that is a legitimate threat, a true threat under the true threats doctrine. Watts v. United States, Counterman, Colorado. It doesn't happen. It doesn't rise to that level. Let me show you a real threat. This is a real threat. This is a picture taken by Laura Logan, apparently. This is something from the United States Marshal, Western District of Texas. That's here in Austin, Texas. This is the federal courthouse. The photo was taken today. That was yesterday, she says. Why are Biden and Harris still on the walls at the U.S. Marshal's office inside the federal courthouse in Austin, Texas? That is a real threat to me. It's not a threat against the life of the president. It's a threat against the capabilities of an administration when you have someone who's been in there since 2018. She's a presidential appointee. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this lady. The woman who is the United States Marshal for the Western District of Texas is a woman named Susan L. Pomerleau. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She is formerly the sheriff of Bexar County. It's pronounced Bear, but it's Bexar. She was there for about 4 years, 3 to 4 years as a sheriff. And she previously was a major general in the United States Air Force. She was an admin officer in the United States military. She joined the U.S. Air Force in 1968, and she ended up retiring in 2000 at the rank of Major General. That woman has not replaced the chain of command under which she works. You have Biden on the wall. You have Kamala Harris on the wall. You have Merrick Garland on the wall as the lead of the DOJ. That should be Pam Bondi. And then you'd have her, and her picture is still unchanged. Now, whether that's a failure of leadership to go in and tell people, whether it's a failure to just do your job because she's 78 freaking years old, just so you guys understand, the United States Marshal, the lead person for the Marshal Service in the Western District of Texas, which covers El Paso, big city, border town, Midland and Odessa, which are also relatively big out in the Panhandle. It covers Waco, which is the biggest city between Austin and Dallas. San Antonio, which is a monstrously big city, and the capital of Texas, Austin, Texas, they have the picture of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris up. That is a real freaking problem. That is seriously problematic, and it's far more problematic than some pictures of shells. We have to be aware of what these people are doing, and it is not just happening at the United States Marshal Service. This is what the real deep state looks like. It's people that are pushing back against the actual legitimate authority of the president. Look at this one. This was put out by Sam Shumate the other day. This is also from the Air Force, where this woman that I just showed you a second ago was a major general. It's a big yellow spray paint over the pictures of Donald Trump, over Pete Hegseth, the folks that are running in this chain of command for an intelligence squadron at the United States Air Force. They have the letters spray painted FDT, which we assume stands for F Donald Trump. It's insubordinate. It is a culture that is resisting the people who are supposed to be in charge. We have bigger threats from people that are actually currently working in the government than some washed up guy who's now writing books, the 7-foot-tall middle finger that hangs out there, Jim Comey. And do we really not have bigger things to deal with than setting up fake terrorists and going after Jim Comey with the FBI acting like it? Again, that's social media outrage influencer nonsense. That's not serious. That's not where the real threats exist. For once, I actually agree with MSNBC, which I hate doing. Don't make me defend Jim Comey I hate it. It's like when you guys make me defend the FBI because they're wrong. Enjoy this. This is MSNBC actually having the proper take on this.
37, took a photo, posted it, didn't realize it would be interpreted as a call to violence. Of course, President Trump survived that assassination attempt last summer. There was another assassination plot against him not long after. Some people, you could make the case, are arguing here in bad faith because of the way the president and others feel about James Comey. But how do you see this playing out?
Well, we should remind Dina Gabbard, of course, that Comey would have to be convicted before he went to prison. I mean, look, this is a stupid thing that he did, clearly. I think there's certainly a lot of faux outrage here. But to be fair, if it had gone the other way and then someone had posted 8646 about President Biden, there would be some on the left who would be angry as well. We heard from FBI Director Kash Patel that they're going to be investigating it. You already read a number of Trump officials who said they would as well. It's hard to know whether or not there'll be a there. I mean, Comey took the post down immediately. He apologized. It is still surprising to me that he is so disliked on the right, considering the role he helped play in Donald Trump's original election in 2016.
That's assuming that he actually helped Hillary on purpose, which you guys act, like that may be the case. I think people that have a nuanced take on it think that he might have actually been trying to help Hillary as opposed to hurt Hillary. That's the claim. It ended up hurting. That doesn't mean he understands how everything's going to land. What he did do is generate a lot of publicity about a book that he's trying to sell. And again, this was something you could buy on Amazon. You guys can go out there and type in 8646 right now, and you can also get that same shirt. You're not calling for the death of Joe Biden with that. I think we know better. Ed Martin thinks that we actually are going to see arrests. God willing, that's the case. I don't have a lot of faith in it, but he was on Jesse Kelly talking about it. I at least want to give the lip service to somebody who has now a potential stepping into the judicial department. He's going to walk into the Justice Department in a role where maybe they actually do stop some of the weaponization. So I hope that this is the case. We're going to play a little quick clip of him saying it, and then we're going to talk about how all of this stuff is all manipulated in the first place. And if you're really being honest, you've known it for a long time. These outrage swings and the faux outrage and the excitement about things that are not important, they're really obvious once you know why it's being done.
So what is a realistic expectation from people watching, myself included, who want criminals inside of the government arrested? I'm thrilled with the newest cartel guy going to prison. Yeah, I mean, throw the pedophiles in the Pacific Ocean for all I care. All that stuff sounds great. But if people have committed crimes with either party for any reason with their government position, for me, that's as serious as any crime on the planet because you're taking a responsibility and you're abusing people's rights with it. But is it realistic to think we're going to see government people go to prison in the next 4 years?
Yeah, yes. The answer is yes. And here's what I'd say. Number one, everybody who's watching, and including you, Jesse, don't stop being pissed at the speed. We need to be faster. So don't stop, even at me, even at the good guys, right? And everybody. I agree with it because we're running against the clock. The clock is used against us. The Article 3 courts are used, they slow us down. And I can tell you, as a prosecutor, you're looking at this, you're saying, this case is going to take 18 months. And you're thinking, 18 months from now, how are we going to be able to win the battle for the future of the country? So be mad about the timing. I just would say this. I'm in this, and I'm not, I don't care about being spit at. I mean, it's last week, but I can tell you, I get threats against me and my family and all, and everybody does. It goes into this. And so at this level and where we are, it's worth it because it's now or never. I mean, Jesse, you've written a book on this.
It's now or never. I'm going to turn this down. We'll put this over on Locals if you guys want. But the fact of the matter is he says the right thing. And I really want to believe that Ed Martin's going to get it done. I have an instinct. There's some people that have been around him that told me that he's very serious about this. That is all good news. And the idea that we would not stop pushing on them, don't stop the outrage that we're working against the clock. That's true. If you guys forgot what this was all about, and maybe you have, none of this has to do with whether or not certain people go to jail that you hope go to jail. I'd like them to go to jail too. Like, I want to see justice. I want to see accountability. That was the goal. But let's be real. Have the serious problems been fixed in the election system just because there was a one-off win? Because maybe the powers that be decided that if you didn't give Donald Trump the win where he needed it, that you would have an explosive outrage. How many of you were ready to take to the streets in November? I think they just cooled your jets. What about election integrity? Has that been handled? I saw this clip yesterday and it reminded me that, of course, like address switching and a bunch of other fraudulent tactics have to be fixed. How about this? Consider whether this is being fixed yet.
Let's talk election integrity. I was at the Fulton County Republican breakfast the other day and 3 separate people asked me what my stance was on election integrity. And I told them the same thing I'm going to tell you here. Not only do I believe in it, but I believe I was a victim of election integrity fraud. You see, I registered to vote in 2001, and I have voted here for 24 years. Now I am standing in front of the Alpharetta Library, which is a place where I vote. In the 2020 election, when me and my son came here to vote, I was told that we could not vote here because I lived downtown Atlanta. My address had been changed. Now I assured the lady that my address had not been changed, and I wondered who went in and changed it. She responded that nobody goes in and changes the records. And I told her somebody obviously changed mine. She then handed me a piece of paper to sign. The paper said that I lived at my address and it would allow me and my son to vote. Now later, when I went back and pulled my voting records, I found out that my son's vote never registered. And in fact, my vote also apparently didn't register either, because somebody had requested a paper ballot in my name at a different address a month earlier. That paper ballot was filled out and sent in 2 weeks before the election and marked accepted. And apparently when I went in to vote, my vote did not count because I had already voted. Now I ask you, who requested the paper ballot? Who filled it out? And who did they vote for? I have no idea. What I do know is that me and my son didn't get to vote in the 2020 election. And so if you ask me, was there voter fraud? I can only speak for myself. But in my personal situation, I believe yes.
That's a pretty damning allegation from one guy. There are literally thousands of examples of this. They're not as articulate and they're not as able to stand up in front of a camera and lay it out so properly. But a lot of people felt like they had a credible case of fraud. And the scariest thing is we know that the FBI didn't investigate it. They didn't investigate it in 2020. They actually started getting rid of people that might be conservative because they had kids or they were religious. That's where the real problems are. We're constantly getting misled. Unless you guys think otherwise, the study has been done. If you get punched with a bunch of negative stuff, you're going to feel really angry and negative, and it is by effect, and it is on purpose. That's what algorithms do. And if they punch you with a bunch of positive stuff, you'll feel positive. I think that was Elon Musk's attempt when he said people are going to start seeing boosts of positive material on X. The problem is that human existence is full of a lot of negativity. I cannot stop thinking about this. I knew this story back in 2014 when they published it. It's the reason why I've never had any presence on Facebook, because I know they're willing to use you guys. If you don't know the story, open your eyes up to what social media can manipulate, and then notice the fact that our administration is willing to use it too.
There's a famous Facebook experiment I read about that took place in 2012 and was published in 2014, where they announced that they've achieved mass emotional contagion at scale, which showed that people exposed to it when they altered, so they took 700,000 users or 693,000, I think, without informing them, but because your user agreement does make it whenever you go on the platform, you agree to be tested or A/B testing.
How many of you guys knew that?
So this experiment exposed a group to their news feed was altered in a negative direction emotionally as measured by word counting software. And they discovered that group that had a negative exposure also responded in a more negative way as judged through their posts and likes and responses. The group that was exposed to a more positive news feed by altering the algorithm then had also a measurably statistically significant effect of more positive emotional response. And
that uptalk is too much. That's as far as I could handle it. But the fact of the matter is whatever you consume is what you will see out there in the world. It can mentally alter you. If you see nothing but attacks on you, you'll feel attacked. If you see nothing but negativity, you'll feel negative. If you see nothing but positivity, you'll see positivity. That's what you do. I'm enjoying watching the chat. You guys are very, very upset. Some of you are. You've actually been taken in by the outrage of people. Let me just ask you real quickly. The folks that you hear commenting on it, including people like Tulsi Gabbard, who's not dumb. None of those people have actually investigated threats for a living. That's something I used to do. And I wouldn't have investigated this case. Shells on the ground? Are you kidding me? I'm not even going to drive there. I might call that person up and ask them a quick question. But there is no federal statute there. Does that mean that Jim Comey hasn't committed crimes? He actually stole things from the FBI and leaked information. The problem is he's the one guy in that agency that was allowed to do so. I'm glad they got him out. I think the less we pay attention to a Jim Comey, the better off we are. But we need to demand some real accountability and capabilities from the folks that are in that space. And what are we seeing right now? More of the playbook? More of the crap that we thought we were explaining to guys like Cash and Dan, who actually did whole freaking documentary movies on how the FBI is weaponized. We're just going to do more of that crap? And you guys are going to go along with it? Like, is that what you're on board for? Is that this what I voted for thing? Sometimes I hate it because I do not want to have to defend the status quo or go back there and say the guy that I was recommending and I thought was going to solve the problem actually didn't get it and he wants to be part of the problem. But that's where we're at right now. So whether you like it or not, that's how I'm going to play. All right. I will give you a palate cleanse, though, because that's relevant to me every single time we do one of these things. I do not like going off into the weekend without any sort of positivity. Before we do, if you're watching the video, if I pissed you off, go ahead and give us a like. If it made you happy and you thought about something, give us a like. If you reconsidered over there, give us a like. For those of you who are joining us on Rumble, it's rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin, youtube.com/@Kyle Seraphin, over on X @Kyle Seraphin as well. There's going to be no Sunday sit down because we're working on something kind of fun. Someone who you know, kind of a bigger guest. We're going to try to have that out for next week, but you can always get the Sunday sit down a day early at KyleSeraphin.com. And lastly, Spotify, if you want to hear audio and switch between video as you drive around, share it with a friend. It's KyleSeraphinShow.com. Again, one-man show. This is what it looks like. This is the band. I'm like the guy who's got all the different instruments tied onto himself there. Okay. And then before we go into the weekend, because some of you guys have been sending me stuff, we covered it a little bit over on the call-in show. 9073 West State Highway 29, Suite 110, Box 509, Liberty Hill, Texas, 78642 is how you can write the show if you want to send us a postcard, if you want to send me a letter and tell me that you disagree with me, if you want to do it, if you want to send threats, knock yourself out. I don't really care. It just goes to a post office box. We'll go read it and then we'll laugh about it together if you guys like. So that's where we're going to go. Let's do a palate cleanse here. You remember the real threat, how Donald Trump was a Nazi? When you make Donald Trump a Nazi, you really upset the real Nazis who just want to be Nazis. This is a Babylon Bee satire. Enjoy it.
I've been a Nazi as long as I can remember. I believe all the standard Nazi stuff. I hate minorities and undesirables. I think Aryans should rule the world. The Third Reich shall rise again. All the classics. But it's not as fun to be a Nazi anymore. When they started calling Elon Musk a Nazi and Trump and, pretty much every Republican, it made it a lot harder for me to stand out. It's like I go out in public and I'm like, hey, everyone, I'm a Nazi. And they're like, big deal. Everyone we don't like is a Nazi. It makes me feel less special. This swastika armband, it used to mean something. Now I'm walking down the street and every Tesla has a swastika painted on it. Every Republican's garage door has one. I just can't stand out from the crowd. I guess I just want to go back to the old days when being a Nazi meant something. Because if we change the definition of Nazi to include any old Joe walking down the street, it loses its power. Because when everyone's a Nazi, no one is.
It's a good message. Don't call people Nazis if they're not actual Nazis. It makes the real Nazis sad. And we don't want to make Nazis sad. I don't know why that's funny to me, but that's pretty clever. All right, y'all. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope you guys get off your phones, put the shells down. Don't take pictures of them. Don't be outraged. Go find something good out there, like go to the pool with your kids or walk around and get sweaty or do some yard work. God bless you. I look forward to seeing you again on Monday. Again, this has been a friendless Friday. Unfortunately, we'll do hopefully a Steve friend coming back in later. And have a great weekend. We'll see you then.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Seraphin.